It was supposed to be a shortcut. That's what the map said anyway. A narrow county highway cutting straight through the foothills, 2 hours shaved off my drive. But when I hit the snow line, the GPS froze. No signal, no cell bars. Just the blue arrow stuck in the middle of nowhere. The road was barely visible, just a pair of tire ruts half buried in powder. I hadn't seen another car in an hour, maybe more. The world was white and endless, trees frozen mid-breath, mountains fading into the fog. The heater was losing the fight. I had one glove off, tapping the cracked GPS screen, trying to make it move again. Nothing. So I kept driving. Coldwater. That was the name stamped on the old highway sign I'd passed 20 miles back. Population, 612. It looked like it hadn't been updated in decades, but according to the route, it was the only town between me and the interstate. And at that point, I just needed gas and a place to thaw. The first thing I noticed when I finally saw the town was the silence. No plows, no engines, just the sound of tires crunching through snow. The main street came into view like something half-remembered. 2 gas pumps, a diner, and a string of shuttered windows coated in frost. The sign above the diner read, "The Silver Pine, open daily." Only the O was hanging sideways, tapping gently in the wind. I pulled up beside the pumps. The gas station canopy sagged under the weight of the snow. No lights, no tracks, not even footprints. Just blank white ground, smooth as untouched paper. I stepped out, and the cold hit like a slap, the kind that steals your breath before you can curse. My boots sank to my ankles, crunching through a layer of ice. There was an old payphone near the station wall, its cord frozen stiff. I picked it up out of habit, pressed the receiver to my ear. At first, nothing. Then faintly, a dial tone. But it wasn't steady. It pulsed, like breathing. I hung it up fast. The diner was across the street, and I could see light flickering behind its frosted glass. Yellow, warm, alive. So I crossed over, boots squealing in the cold. When I pushed the door open, a bell jingled overhead. It was warm inside. The air smelled faintly of coffee and burnt toast. But there wasn't a single person in sight. Just plates set on the counter. Coffee steaming, pancakes half-eaten, like everyone had just stepped out for a moment. A ceiling fan turned lazily above, creaking with each rotation. I called out once, twice. Nothing. Then, from the kitchen doorway, came the sound of a radio. Old, low, playing something warped and slow. A woman's voice humming through the static. I walked closer, pushing the kitchen door with the back of my glove. The room was empty, but the radio sat on the prep counter, powered on, dials glowing faint orange. I picked it up to check the frequency. It wasn't playing a song. It was looping a weather broadcast. On Coldwater, light snow continuing through the evening. Temperatures expected to drop below. The voice broke, skipping like a scratched record. I turned the knob. Static. Then, clear again. If you're hearing this, stay indoors. Roads are closed beyond mile marker 19. I froze, because I'd passed that marker 15 minutes ago. Then under the voice, I heard something else. Faint, maybe behind the mic, like someone whispering to the announcer. It said, "He's already here." I dropped the radio. The sound cut out immediately. No static, no hum. The lights flickered once and steadied. I stood there, listening to the silence stretch. And somewhere outside, faint but sharp enough to hear through the glass, came the sound of footsteps crunching in the snow. Slow, deliberate, heading straight for the diner door. The footsteps stopped just outside the diner. For a long minute, nothing moved. No shadow through the frosted glass, no sound but the wind pushing at the door. Then the bell above it jingled, once, and the door eased open. A gust of cold rolled in, sharp enough to sting. Snow dusted across the floor tiles, catching the light from the counter lamps. But nobody stepped through. "Hello?" I called. No answer. Just that low hum from the ceiling fan, the kind that gets under your skin after a while. I moved toward the door slowly, boots scraping. Outside, the street was empty again. But there, across the road, I saw something new. Tracks. Fresh boot prints in the snow. They led away from the diner, toward the church on the corner. Every window in that church was frozen over, except one. The upper pane glowed faint gold, like candlelight. I zipped my coat up to my chin and followed the prints. The snow was deeper here, swallowing my steps. By the time I reached the door, my fingers were numb and stiff. The door was cracked open just enough to creak in the wind. Inside, it smelled like dust and smoke. Rows of pews half collapsed under the weight of ice. And on the altar, a small candle still burned, steady, almost defiant. Next to it was a ledger, half buried in frost. I brushed the cover off. It read, Coldwater Church Registry. Last entry dated January 14th, 1979. That was over 40 years ago. The page listed names, families, kids, visitors, all neat cursive until the very last line. That one was written in thick, uneven ink. Snow took the roads. God keep the lights. As I turned the page, a drop of water hit my hand. I looked up. The ceiling was solid ice, thick, cloudy, layered like glass. And inside it, shapes. At first, I thought it was my eyes playing tricks. Then I saw fingers, faces, people suspended in the ice above me, their expressions twisted, eyes open, skin pale blue. And one of them was me. Same coat, same scarf, same small scar near my brow. Frozen mid-breath, staring down. The air went tight in my lungs. The candle on the altar flickered and hissed out, plunging everything into dim blue shadow. Then the radio crackled again. It wasn't on the counter anymore. It was coming from the church's old speaker system, half fused into the wall. Same static, same fractured voice as before. Below zero, visibility near none. Repeat, roads are closed beyond mile marker 19. And under it, the whisper again. He's still here. Something cracked above me. A long, low groan. The ice shifting. A sheet of it broke loose from the ceiling and crashed down behind the altar, spraying shards across the pews. I didn't wait. I bolted for the door. Outside, the snow had picked up. Thick, blinding. The tracks I'd followed were already gone, smoothed over by the wind. When I turned to look back at the church, the window that had been glowing was dark. And where I'd just stood, I could see my reflection faintly in the frosted glass, except it wasn't copying me. It was smiling. By the time I reached my truck, it was nearly buried. The keys barely turned in the ignition, battery whining. But the radio, the truck's radio, flickered on by itself. This time the voice wasn't the broadcast. It was live, faint, shaky. If anyone can hear me, the snow won't let us leave. The roads don't end. They circle. We keep finding the same mile marker. 19. Over and over. Then static. And then a woman's voice, calm, right beside me in the cab, whispering just loud enough to cut through the static. You should have stayed warm. I turned. No one there. Just my breath fogging the glass. And in that fog, for one impossible second, I saw another face breathing back. I kept the engine running even though the heater barely worked. The snow on the windshield was melting in streaks, refreezing faster than the wipers could clear it. For a few minutes I just sat there, listening to that radio static breathing in and out. I told myself I'd wait for daylight, that I'd turn around as soon as I could see more than a few feet ahead. Then the voice came back. Not through the radio this time, through the CB mic clipped to the dash. Unit 12, copy. We've got movement near the tree line. I froze. That was my old call sign, from when I used to volunteer in the fire department years ago. The mic crackled again. Daniels, do you copy? I hadn't heard anyone use that name on a radio in almost a decade. I picked up the mic, hand shaking. Who is this? You were supposed to stay put. The transmission ended with a pop loud enough to sting my ear. The lights of the town were gone. Even the diner sign had vanished into the white. Only one light remained, a pale orange glow coming from the other side of the square. I drove toward it, tires spinning through drifts that seemed to get deeper with every yard. The light turned out to be a street lamp half buried in snow. Beneath it stood a phone booth. The glass was fogged from the inside. When I stepped out of the truck, the wind cut clean through my coat. The booth door hung open. The phone was off the hook, cord twisted tight like someone had been pacing in circles while they talked. The receiver buzzed softly. I lifted it, half expecting silence. Instead, a woman's voice whispered right into my ear, "You shouldn't have come back, Sam." Nobody called me Sam anymore. "I don't know who this is," I said. "You do?" The line went dead, but the buzzing didn't stop. It grew deeper, turning into a hum that vibrated through the snow under my boots. A faint orange light pulsed beneath the street, moving like something alive beneath ice. Then the snow cracked. A sound like ice shearing across a lake echoed through the square, and the ground gave slightly under my feet. Through the widening fissure I saw water, dark, rippling slowly far below, reflecting rows of streetlights that shouldn't exist. There was another town under the town. Houses perfectly preserved beneath the frozen surface, windows glowing faint blue. And in one of those windows a figure stood watching me, not moving, just staring up from under the ice. I stumbled back toward the truck, heart hammering. As I climbed inside, the windshield frosted over in a single breath. Words appeared in the ice, written backwards from the outside. Mile 19, again. Then the engine died. The headlights faded until only the reflection of that message glowed faintly on the glass. Somewhere out there, beyond the wind, a bell started ringing. Slow, steady, like the diner door had come alive again. I opened the door to listen. Instead of snow, a low mist rolled past, glowing faintly orange from underneath. I could hear water moving below it, whispering against the frozen crust. And beneath that whisper, something else. Voices, dozens of them, overlapping in a steady rhythm. Stay warm. Stay warm. They weren't warning me. They were calling me. I don't remember leaving the truck. One moment I was inside, breath fogging the windshield. The next, I was walking through the square, boots crunching on ice that sounded hollow beneath me. The mist had thickened, glowing from below like embers under glass. That bell kept ringing, slow, methodical, though there was no wind to move it. I followed the sound past the diner, past the church steeple half lost in the snow. At the edge of town, where the sign should have said, "Thanks for visiting Coldwater," there was nothing but a rusted frame, and beyond it, black woods. The forest didn't look real. Every tree was coated in a sheen of ice, branches bent under frozen weight, like they'd been caught mid-movement and never thawed. And just inside the tree line I saw her, the woman from the phone booth. She stood barefoot in the snow, hair hanging in wet strands, head tilted like she was listening to something beneath her feet. When she looked at me, her eyes caught the faint orange glow from the ground, and for a second I could have sworn there was fire behind them. "You came back," she said. Her voice was soft, like she'd been waiting a long time. "I don't even know you," I managed. But part of me knew that was a lie. She stepped closer, the ice not even cracking under her weight. Coldwater doesn't forget its own. Behind her, the woods started to hum, that same low vibration I'd felt under the booth. The snow began to pulse with light, faint ripples moving outward from her bare feet like heat waves. Then she said, almost kindly, "They left you here, remember? You never made it out that night." The words landed like a blow, and then I remembered the storm. The one from years ago, the rescue call near mile 19, the overturned bus, the ice giving way beneath me as I tried to pull someone out. I didn't make it back. Coldwater wasn't a town anymore. It was a reflection, a frozen echo for the ones who died on that road and never moved on. And every winter, When the temperature dropped just right, the line between the living and the frozen blurred. "You keep coming back," she whispered. "You never stop trying to leave." I looked down. My boots were half sunk into the snow, but beneath it wasn't ice anymore. It was water, black and still. I saw my reflection staring up from it, pale and rimed with frost. Then the reflection blinked before I did. I stumbled back, but my reflection stayed still, mouth slowly curling into a smile I didn't feel. It raised its hand. Behind me, I heard the bell stop ringing. The silence that followed was total, so heavy it pressed against my chest. Then the water erupted. Hands broke through the surface, dozens of them, grasping, frozen, skin translucent. They pulled themselves upward, half-formed faces pressing through the frost, mouths opening in soundless gasps. And all of them looked like me. The woman stepped back, vanishing into the mist. "It's time to remember," she said, her voice echoing from nowhere and everywhere at once. I tried to run, but the ice gave way. The last thing I saw was the orange glow below, flickering like firelight through water, and my own face smiling up from beneath the surface as I fell through. When I opened my eyes, I was back behind the wheel. The snow was falling again. The radio hummed softly. The diner sign buzzed in the distance, flickering, open, through the storm. "Mile 19, I whispered. The clock on the dashboard blinked 12 and over, the same moment repeating endlessly. Somewhere in the static, a voice said, "Welcome back to Coldwater." And this time I didn't turn off the engine. I just drove forward into the white. Thanks for listening till the end.